Welcome, fellow wanderers of Middle-earth. Today, we delve into one of the more intriguing and lesser-explored mysteries of Tolkien's legendarium, the possibility of a forgotten Palantír still being active in the vast and ancient lands of Middle-earth. The Palantíri, those enigmatic seeing stones crafted by the Noldor in the Elder Days, have long fascinated readers with their mysterious powers and shadowy histories. Could one of these legendary orbs still whisper secrets across the ages, silently watching from a forgotten tower or deep vault? Let us follow the trail of their scattered shards, and perhaps we shall glimpse a hidden fragment of Middle-earth's forgotten lore. To begin, it is essential to understand what the Palantíri truly are. The Seven Stones, as they are often called, were fashioned by Fëanor himself in Aman during the blissful years before the darkening of Valinor, making them relics of the ancient world, older even than the sun and moon. These stones were brought to Middle-earth by the Númenóreans likely during the reign of Tar Aldarion in the early Second Age, or perhaps later under the influence of the powerful and tragic Ar-Pharazôn, who led his people to the brink of ruin and into the clutches of Sauron. Upon the downfall of Númenor in 3319 of the Second Age, the Palantíri were saved from the waves by the faithful, those loyal to the Valar and the Eldar, led by Elendil and his sons, Isildur and Anarion. Of the Seven Stones brought to Middle-earth, most are accounted for, their fates clear and grim. The Master Stone, held in Osgiliath, was lost in the fires of civil war during the kinstrife of Gondor, and the Stone of Minas Ithil fell into the hands of Sauron after the city's capture in 2002 of the Third Age. The Stone of Orthanc was recovered by Aragorn Elisar in the War of the Ring, while the Palantír of Minas Tirith remained a secret treasure of the stewards, though it was clouded and perilous after Denethor's despairing use. The Stone of Annúminas, ancient capital of Arnor, was lost to the depths of the ice bay of Foroshel, along with Arvedui, the last king of Arthedain, in 1975 of the Third Age. Lastly, the Stone of Elostirium was taken to the west with the final departure of the Ringbearers in 3021 of the Third Age, its gaze ever fixed upon the lost lands of Aman. Yet this still leaves us with a troubling mystery. The fate of the Seventh Stone, the Palantír of Amon-Sul, known also as Weathertop. This mighty stone once stood in the great watchtower of the northern Dúnedain, a beacon of vigilance against the darkness that encroached from Angmar and the frozen north. It is said that this stone was removed from Amon-Sul and brought to Fornost, the final bastion of Arthedain, before that kingdom fell to the Witch King's wrath. But what became of it after the fall of Fornost in 1974 of the Third Age remains unclear. Some accounts suggest it too may have been lost with Arvedui in the icy grasp of Foroshel, but the details are vague, and the cold waters of the northern seas may not tell all their secrets. Given this uncertain fate, we must ask, could this stone still be intact, perhaps buried beneath the shifting ice or hidden in some forgotten ruin? And if it yet endures, what might it see? Could it still hold the long watch over Middle-earth, even now, waiting to whisper its secrets to one brave enough to seek it out? If the Palantír of Amon-Sul still exists, its potential to observe the world even in its isolation raises fascinating possibilities. Unlike the other stones, this one, if it remains intact, might be the last to possess a truly unclouded sight, untouched by the will of Sauron or the despair of its keepers. Yet this also means it could lie dormant, its power untapped for over 1,000 years, silently watching the unfolding of the Fourth Age from beneath the ice or within some forgotten vault. But why should we even consider the survival of this ancient stone? After all, it was believed lost with Arvedui, whose desperate flight into the frozen wastes of Foroshel in the winter of 1974 of the Third Age marked the final collapse of the northern kingdom of Arnor. Arvedui, the last king of Arth Arthain, perished in that frozen bay, his ship crushed by the grinding ice. Yet the loss of the Palantír itself is not so clear. The Lossoth, the snow-dwelling people of the Foradwaith, were known to aid Arvedui in his final days. They sheltered him in snow houses, offering what aid they could until a rescue vessel arrived. However, when that ship sank beneath the icy waves, it took with it more than just a doomed king. It carried the last relics of a proud and ancient realm, perhaps including the Palantír of Amonsal itself. Yet here lies a critical detail. The Lossoth were known for their deep suspicion of strange objects, and the stones of magic that men of the south cherished. It is not impossible that they may have taken the stone from Arvedui's possession before his fateful departure, perhaps even hiding it within the snowbound depths of their icy homeland. Such a treasure, misunderstood and feared, might have been buried away in a forgotten ice cavern or concealed within the frozen hills of Forochil, where only the harshest winter winds would dare intrude. In such a place, the stone might remain, a silent eye turned eternally toward the world of men, its secrets lost to all but the most determined seeker. Another intriguing possibility lies in the notion that the Lossoth, for all their mistrust, may have passed the stone into the keeping of others. Consider the long coastlines of Forochel, where windswept seas crash against jagged ice, a place where the remnants of Numenor's past might still linger. If the Palantír did not sink with Arvedui's ship, it might have been taken south by daring mariners or hidden along the forgotten trails of the Lossoth themselves. It is a tantalizing thought. A lone Palantír, lost but not destroyed, its long vigil unbroken through the passing of ages. Yet, to locate such a stone, one would need not only great skill, but also a heart free of fear. For the lore of the Palantíri tells us that their gaze is not lightly withstood. Even Aragorn, a man of immense will and the blood of Elendil, found his confrontation with the Palantír of Orthanc a trial of both spirit and flesh, emerging from it as one who had passed through a fierce fire. What then of this forgotten stone, perhaps lying beneath the ice, where the memories of kings and the whispers of lost realms might still echo, undimmed and unyielding? If the Palantír of Amonsul endures beneath the ice, its survival would be more than just a relic of a lost age. It would stand as a living link to the ancient realms of the Dunedain, a silent witness to the long and bitter struggles of the North. But it is not merely the potential survival of this stone that makes it intriguing. It is the question of what it might still see. The Palantíri, by their very nature, were not bound to a single vantage point. They could survey great distances, piercing cloud and shadow, stone and storm. And they did not merely see the present. They could, on occasion, glimpse the echoes of the past, the forgotten trails of memory, and the faint whispers of what has been. This aligns with the curious note found in the later writings of Tolkien, which hints that certain stones, when masterfully used, could even perceive events long past, though perhaps only in dim reflections, like a shadow upon a distant wall. Consider then the implications. A forgotten stone, lying cold and silent beneath the northern ice, might still perceive the movements of the world. The passing of ships upon the sea, the slow crawl of ice over forgotten lands, the fires of distant wars. It could witness the gathering strength of men in the Fourth Age, the slow retreat of the elves from Middle-earth, and the lingering presence of the dwarves in their mountain halls. It might even sense the faint echoes of Numenor itself, a world long drowned but not wholly forgotten. But what of the risks? Even in their prime, the Palantíri were dangerous tools, capable of overwhelming the unprepared or unwary. Denethor, the steward of Gondor, fell into madness through his prolonged use of a Palantír, his mind twisted by despair and the whispered lies of Sauron, who dominated the stone of Minas Ithil. To gaze into a Palantír is to risk being seen as well as to see, and even the mightiest of the Dunedain could not wholly shield themselves from such peril. And here we must consider a darker possibility. If this lost stone still endures, it might not merely be a passive observer. It could be an active, potent force, its gaze reaching outward even now, seeking those with the strength or folly to use it. In the long centuries since the fall of Arnor, many strange and terrible things have wandered through the northern wastes, creatures twisted by Morgoth's shadow, lost spirits clinging to the ancient world, and perhaps even the remnants of Sauron's scattered servants, still seeking to wield the tools of their fallen master. What if one of these dark wanderers, driven by the whisper of ancient power, stumbled upon this forgotten stone? What might such a being see? And what dark purposes might it serve? And what of those who might seek the stone for more noble reasons? Could the descendants of the Dunedain, perhaps even those of Aragorn's own bloodline, one day rediscover this lost relic, using it to rekindle the ancient bonds of the West and reawaken the fading echoes of Númenor? Would such a quest be one of wisdom or of folly, inviting the same shadows that once claimed the kingdom of Arnor itself? With this in mind, we must ask ourselves, should the Palantír of Amonsul remain forgotten, its site forever frozen beneath the ice? Or should it be sought out, its power reclaimed, and its gaze turned once more upon the world of men? To contemplate the rediscovery of a forgotten Palantír is to tread a fine line between wonder and peril. For the stones were not mere tools, but artifacts of immense power, shaped by the greatest of the Noldor in a time before the world was marred by shadow. Fëanor, their creator, infused them with a portion of his own fierce will and unmatched craft, and though their making was lost with him in the fires of his wrath and pride, their purpose endured. To see, to know, and to connect minds across vast distances. Yet, as with all things wrought in the bliss of Aman, the Palantíri were never meant to be wielded by those tainted by the shadow of Morgoth. This makes the potential survival of the Amonsul stone a dangerous possibility, for it may have lain untouched by Sauron's hand, unclouded by his malice, and thus capable of piercing even the deepest darkness. However, this also means it would be a prize of immense value to any who would seek to dominate others, for such a stone could reveal not only the movements of armies, but also the secret thoughts and fears of those who would oppose them. Imagine, for a moment, the terror that such a device could inspire if it were discovered by a remnant of Sauron's followers. A creature like the Mouth of Sauron, or one of the lesser wraiths that might have escaped the fall of Barad-dûr. Such a being, driven by a twisted desire to reclaim the glory of its fallen master, might use the stone to spread whispers of dread and despair, turning men against each other, as Sauron once did through his servant. Yet there is another, more hopeful possibility. What if the stone, rather than being a tool of tyranny, became a beacon of renewal? Consider the scattered peoples of the Fourth Age, the Rangers of the North, the remnants of the Dunedain, or even the hardy folk of the Shire, who have already proven themselves capable of great deeds. If such a people were to find the stone, they might use it to preserve the ancient knowledge of the West, keeping alive the memory of Númenor and the wisdom of the Eldar. They might even use it to maintain contact with distant realms, creating a hidden network of watchful eyes to guard against the slow return of shadow. And what of the elves, those few who remain in Middle-earth, even as the straight path calls them home? Would they too seek such a stone, perhaps to catch a final fleeting glimpse of their distant kin across the sea, or to hold vigil over the realms they once protected? Might Círdan the shipwright, last of the ancient mariners, have known of this lost stone and left behind whispers of its location, hoping that one day a pure-hearted seeker might find it? Of course, we must also consider the practical challenges of such a quest. The frozen wastes of Foroshel are among the most inhospitable places in all Middle-earth, a realm of biting winds and shifting ice, where the sun itself seems to burn cold upon the horizon. The Lossoth, who once sheltered Alvidui, knew well the dangers of those lands, and it is possible that they themselves took steps to ensure that the relics of the fallen king were forever hidden, protected by their own superstitions and the harshness of their homeland. Thus, the fate of the Palantír of Amonsul remains one of Middle-earth's greatest unsolved mysteries. A riddle whispered by the winds of the north, its answers frozen in time and snow. Yet, as with all great mysteries, it calls to those with the heart to seek it, offering both great peril and even greater reward to those willing to take up the mantle of the forgotten kings. As we draw this journey to a close, we must confront the question that lingers at the heart of all such mysteries. Should the Palantír of Amonsul, if it yet survives, ever be sought again? Is it the right of the Fourth Age to reclaim such a relic, to pry open the eyes of a forgotten past and peer once more into the veiled paths of fate? Or should it remain lost, a shadow of a shadow, its secrets sealed by ice and time? A silent testament to the passing of the great kingdom. To answer this, we must consider the cost of such knowledge. The Palantíri, for all their power, were dangerous in their subtlety. They demanded a strength of will few could muster, and even the mighty were often broken by their weight. Denethor, mighty steward of Gondor, who held the blood of Numenor in his veins, was consumed by his stone's visions, his spirit twisted by despair and the whisper of inevitable doom. Even Aragorn, Alessair the Renewer, felt the terrible pressure of his confrontation with Sauron through the Palantír of Orthanc, emerging from the trial marked by its fire. Yet the lure of knowledge, the promise of understanding, and the desire to connect the broken threads of history are powerful forces. For some, the chance to behold the world as it truly is, to see through shadow and mist, to watch over friend and foe alike, might be a burden worth bearing. Such a stone, if it still lies hidden beneath the ice of Forhol or the forgotten halls of the north, might serve as a light in dark places, a watchful eye against the slow return of shadow. It might become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the deep of winter, the fire of the West endures. Or perhaps it is better left undisturbed, its gaze forever locked upon a world that no longer exists, its power a silent echo of a forgotten past. Perhaps, in the end, the greatest wisdom is to let the past lie in peace, to let the world move forward, unburdened by the weight of ancient stone and unspoken oaths. And so, the choice remains, to seek or to forget, to remember or to let fade. It is a choice worthy of the free peoples of Middle-earth, a choice that echoes down the long, mist-shrouded corridors of time, where the whisper of Feanor's craft and the last breath of Numenor still linger. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the forgotten corners of Middle-earth. If you enjoyed this exploration, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Which mystery of Arda should we unravel next? Until then, Melanin, farewell, and may the stars of Elbereth guide you on your path.